is swirling around Muammar Gaddafi's planned visit to the United States. Because what happens when a Libyan dictator moves to suburban Englewood, New Jersey?
Well, clearly fun for late night, but not so much for folks living in New Jersey. They want no part of Muammar Gaddafi's upcoming trip to the United States. This weekend, in fact, top state leaders will join community members to protest Gaddafi's plan to stay in the city of Englewood. The Libyan leader will address the UN General Assembly next month. He's reportedly considering pitching a Bedouin-style tent on the grounds of an Englewood mansion owned by a Libyan diplomat. All this comes just a week after Gaddafi, personally welcomed convicted Lockerbie bomber Abdel al-Megrahi home upon his release from a Scottish prison on compassionate grounds. As you likely know, 270 people died in Pan Am 103. Nearly 24 were New Jersey residents. Gaddafi's son now responding to the outrage. He says, quote, "Lockerbie is history," and questioned why protesters are so angry. He also told a British paper that the original deal between the UK and Libya to release the Lockerbie bomber was linked to a deal on oil and trade. Remember, Libya has the largest oil reserves in Africa, supplies 40% of the oil to the United Kingdom, and it has been speculated that they are capable of delivering 80% of the oil to England by 2015. Anyway, the release over the past week, they say, had nothing to do with that. With us right now, however, some folks who have a variety of perspectives on the subject. Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who lives indeed right next door to where Gaddafi is reportedly planning to stay. And then back with us for a second day, Englewood, New Jersey Mayor Michael Wilds, who also was a 20-year immigration lawyer. Your father represented John Lennon in his deportation, and you were before that a federal prosecutor. Rabbi, welcome to the conversation. Mr. Mayor, welcome back to the conversation. Your thoughts on your potential neighbor?
Well, think about this. In the United States, if someone is guilty of a sex crime, they have to register as a sex offender. But you can be an international financier of terror. You could be responsible for the death of thousands of people, and you could move next door immediately adjacent to me. I'm raising 9 children in the suburb of Englewood. This is my dear friend and mayor. And it's astonishing that I have to have this man with his little army of Libyan intelligence officials who are going to protect him. Let's remember that al-Megrahi was a Libyan intelligence official. So a lot of these Secret Service people of Libya, we don't know what activities they're up to.
Hold on, only if you have oil.
Oh, true. Well, we have cooking
oil. If you don't have oil,
we don't
this doesn't happen.
Right. But I ask myself why my government, who has deployed tens of thousands of soldiers who fight and die in Afghanistan,
billions
and Iraq,
of dollars,
in order to fight terrorists, what does it do to the morale of our troops when they see that these terrorists are welcomed with a red carpet by the President of the United States, by Hillary Clinton? I would seriously suggest to my Secretary of State that if you really want Gaddafi in the U.S. and he wants to pitch his tent, your front lawn in Chappaqua would be a great venue. Or if the UN wants him, let's put him on a barge outside the UN compound of the East River. He could float up and down and see the beautiful fall foliage. But that my 9 children need to be put at risk for Gaddafi when I'm a resident of the United States, that's absolutely... It's terrible.
Momentum building into the weekend. Tell us what's going on here, Mr. Mayor.
Very concerned. We all bargained that I'm a Democrat for change that matters. And as much respect as I have for my president, I think there's not just collateral damage that's being done here. We're preparing for battle. The first one is the sword and the shield. We're hoping again and genuinely that he will not make it to U.S. soil, that the immigration authorities, the State Department will either rescind the visa if they issued one or not issue one in the first place. But you know something? The old admonition...
You're an immigration lawyer. Sorry to interrupt you. Is there any recourse to the private sector, either you as the mayor of the town and with your legal background or anybody else for that matter?
Nobody can stop the government from issuing the authority to make entry. It's a sovereign authority to allow somebody here. However, that said, the old admonition that if you build it, they will come. If you don't build it, they can't come. I'm proud to say that within the next few hours, we will be filing some significant papers that will actually have a legal effect in giving our police the authority to shut down the improvements that they're making on their property. If they can't build it properly, perhaps he can't pitch his friggin' tent. What bothers me is not only are 9 children and a distinguished citizen has to sit there while they remove his trees and his fence. What bothers me is that we have to pay to remove his rubbish. We have to pay $20,000 a day extra in overtime, and they're tax exempt. It's this air of entitlement. His son said today that the Pan Am 103 is history. I'm a Jew. The rabbi obviously is. We don't forget. History repeats itself. Osama bin Laden was a friend that we made during the Mujahideen. Is this friendship going to be one that we're going to regret? And do we really want to dine or have him sleep on U.S. soil, even for one evening?
The only thing that I'll add to what you just said, because I agree with all of it, is the subordination of the values as a country we would aspire to, that we seek to represent to the world. To publicly betray those values by effectively allowing oil to supersede the blood of our children.
To barter our souls for a barrel of oil. Think of the first responders that went to the Lockerbie site and had to remove limbs from lawns. Think of the 38 families in the Garden State who do not have their brother, their cousin, their grandparent, their fathers. To this day. We should be getting permits, not for tents, but for loudspeakers, and we should be reading continuously those 38 names for every second he's on U.S. soil.
Well, you know, I'll read the names if you set up the loudspeakers. Okay. You're planning a protest this weekend. Tell us about it.
It's going to happen in Englewood. It's actually on my lawn because I am immediately adjacent to the Libyan compound, and it's going to take place this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. 440 East Palisade Avenue, whoever's in the New York area. We really want your support. People of Libya can't stand up to Gaddafi. They would be found probably in a shallow, unmarked grave. But the privilege that we have to stand up fearlessly to a dictator and to a tyrant and to say to him, we don't want you in our neighborhood, that's a privilege we ought to exercise. You know, I take your point about us bartering our soul for oil. I lived in Europe for 11 years. This is a pattern of releasing terrorists. The Munich massacre, the 72 Black September terrorists were released. The murderer of Leon Klinghoffer, the Achille Lauro, this was a guy in a wheelchair, was pushed into the sea. He was released after a few years. So this is a pattern. But the United States stands for something. We're the leaders of the free world. And again, I'm asking our elected officials, help me as a private citizen. Join with our mayor, President Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Keep Gaddafi out of our soil. And all of you citizens, come out and make your voices heard.
Senator Frank Lautenberg is going to be
Senator Lautenberg's going to be there. He's amazing. Lautenberg has been a lion on this. Steve Rothman has been very strong on this.
Governor Corzine will be there on Sunday.
We believe that Senator Menendez will probably be coming as well. It's a very big rally.
Address one more time.
440 East Palisade Avenue, Englewood, New Jersey. Join me and our mayor.
We're also expecting a big contingency of good police officers, firefighters, Irish kilts, bagpipes to boot. The truth is, this Lockerbie attack has not been part of history as Gaddafi's son would dictate.
Hey, Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a question for Mayor Wilds. So you can't stop Gaddafi from coming into the country, but we were talking yesterday about the possibility of confining him to the UN the UN grounds. What do you know what the deadline is for the State Department to make that determination?
You have private airplanes, so there are no deadlines. They could issue a visa, they could issue a restrictive visa, they can make sure that he stays to a confined area or space or a barge. The truth be told, he asked for a permit to pitch a tent, and my colleague Mayor Bloomberg in New York denied that request to pitch it in Central Park. As far as I'm concerned, again, he is not welcome in this country, in this state. If the government is going to issue a visa, because we are a tolerant state, even for tyrants, we allow them to speak and leave.
And you made an incredible point, Rabbi, when you said the thing that makes America different from any other nation, when we see an outrage of any kind, we have the opportunity for free speech and free protest and free expression of self. And I commend you for putting your resources in your home, honestly, at the disposal of those that would seek to exercise that right this weekend.
Thank you. It's like what Franklin Roosevelt said, the freedom from fear. That we can live here without fear, and that's what it's all about. Please come and join us. We really want to stop him. We want to have a victory over terror. We want to ensure that the Libyans get it, that when you have a stomach-turning spectacle of inviting a mass murderer home to a party and a celebration,